Good. I never know what to call 5 o'clock. Is it afternoon? Is it evening? It's afternoon for Gailey. So we're going to say good afternoon, everybody. I insist on starting this way, even though people listen to podcasts whenever the hell they feel like it. I still like give away what time I'm recording, roughly anyway. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today, returning for I forgot to check out how many times, at least the fourth, is Sarah Gailey, who has a new comic on the shelf this week called Neighborhood Watch, and a book right around the corner that I failed and didn't go look up the title of. So introduce the book really quick before I forget again.
It's called Make Me Better, and it comes out on May 12th.
Oh, so that's right around the corner too. You're one of the
Uh-huh.
few people that I read prose for quickly, or at least listen to prose for quickly.
I'm
I
so
mean, I'm
honored.
always listening to books, but like most of them aren't the books that just came out because I have such a backlog of books because somewhere along the lines I got really bad at reading prose and I don't like
Hmm.
and I don't like listening on advanced speeds. So
Right.
now books take as long as it takes to listen to and as many car rides to and from work as that equals because most of the time I don't continue listening at home. Sometimes if it really grabs me, just like sometimes if it really, really grabs me, I'll come home and like buy a digital copy or whatever so I can continue reading. Um, but yeah, I got really bad at reading. I mean, I remember a time in my life where like putting away 1,000 page book in 24 hours was something that like I did
Yeah. Yeah.
even semi regularly.
Yeah. I think
And now
everyone
it's
I know
like,
is in that same boat. Prose is really tough right now.
well, I think part of it's just that, like, for me anyway, like, I don't make pictures in my head.
Hmm.
So there's always been a challenge to certain kinds of prose. I do better with them. It took me forever to discover audiobooks, and then it took me like there's a different literacy to comics. There's a different literacy to listening. It's not quite the
Absolutely.
same. You have to develop a listening literacy. And it took me a while to develop that. But once I did, it's like, oh, there are certain books that I'm going to do way better audio.
Yes.
There's still
Yeah.
some that I have to read. Like I've tried Alan Moore's Jerusalem a couple of times now on audio, and it's actually one that like the only way that I make any headway, and I haven't finished because it does involve reading, is if I listen to it and read it at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Because because if you think Alan Moore's comics are dense,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least Jerusalem, I haven't read the other stuff. Like, and I love what I've read. He's a brilliant writer, and if anything, I think he might be a better prose writer than a comic writer. I know that's a one of my minority opinions. I both think Alan Moore is one of the most brilliant comic writers ever, and far and away the most overrated comic writer ever. Because I
Ooh,
don't think he's
controversial.
Well, I don't think he's hands down the best comic writer ever. I think he belongs in that discussion. But so many people act like it's Alan Moore and then a fight for second like 1,000 miles away, and I don't buy that argument. Um, Part of that is that it's just like it's hard to compare writers, period.
Hmm.
I mean, how do you compare you to Nick Hornby?
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than the fact that you're the two people that I'll read your book immediately.
I mean, I'm happy to be in that category within them.
Right, but you don't write similar books. Well, the one comparison I can make is you both write character-centered books.
Hmm.
I love Nick Hornby books because they're funny and human. I love your books because they're human and weird. But the human is the but I haven't even let you talk. I'm sorry.
I
This is
mean,
what
I'm
happens
here
when
to
you rush
listen.
me home from school. Let's have the front counter push for Neighborhood Watch, which everybody, if they haven't already picked it up from their comic shop, needs to go out and get it right now because it is ridiculously amazing. And it has, see, I don't do this often, but
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness, you've got this gorgeous variants.
yeah, you got my money multiple times this time.
Amazing. I mean, I'm so lucky the artists that I get to work with are incredible, and these covers are like some of my favorites ever.
Yeah. No, no, that's part of why you got like I'm more likely when it's a friend and a writer that I love to buy at least a variant of issue one just to juice your sales. But like if if all of the covers are pretty,
You're helpful. What are you supposed to do? Of course you have to have them all.
well, and I can justify it because it's like, well, Sarah's a friend of mine, just helping
Of course,
out.
yeah. You're just helping out.
Don't do anything crazy like 20 covers on a book, please.
Yeah, I'll bankrupt you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
give the neighborhood watch
go ahead.
pitch. Front
Okay, so
counter
the pitch
pitch.
for Neighborhood Watch is this is a community thriller that takes place across two communities that are near each other, one of which is a gated community with an HOA and lawn length rules, and the other one of which is a cooperative collective called Open Arms. And these two communities are connected by history and by secrets, and in this comic, they get connected by an attempted murder that the vice president of the HOA and the kitchen steward of the collective have to try together to solve.
I love the color scheme too. The fact that you've got at least for until they are together, you know, we've got our blue gated community, our orange HOA, and then our page with the panels that kind of merge the blue and the
Rebecca
orange
Nalty
together.
is on colors for this, and I've
Yeah.
gotten to work with Rebecca before. They're incredible. The color story here, I mean, first of all, getting colors in the gutters, such a thrill. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I'm always looking to play with form and like break the formal conventions of comics. And a lot of editors historically have been like, we can't do that. It's expensive, it's complicated. Calm down. You know, like
Mhm.
chill out. But with this one, we just got to run straight for the fence. And Rebecca's colors are, I think, in this revolutionary.
Yeah. I sometimes think that too much of the comics industry is stuck in the idea that they're disposable monthlies. Um,
Hmm.
I think every time you allow something crazy, the more eyes it puts on comics. Trying
Yes.
to remember
Yeah.
who I was talking to recently that's like, I have a book and like one of the biggest reasons I haven't sold it yet is like there is a part of it that the way it will work properly is if it's like a 6 page fold out.
Yeah. Yes.
And I
I
haven't
have a
found
pitch.
somebody willing to print that yet.
I have a pitch that I have been rolling from editor to editor for God, probably 6 or 7 years now. And it's not even structurally adventurous in terms of the fold outs of, I don't need like holographic pages or whatever. But
Right.
the art for it is load-bearingly complicated in a way that editors who I love and respect and love working with keep just being like, we're not going to be able to execute that. And I'm like, I know that we could execute it, but it's a gamble. And comics operates financially on such narrow margin that it's like any little extra thing is a risk.
And this is why I'm even though it's causing what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say upheaval because I think it's more just general weirdness. in the industry, the more book publishers get into comics because they think
Hmm.
on different scales.
Hmm.
Like your average comics publisher is thinking, how many of this can I sell this month? And they're not even always that good at thinking of how many of the trade they'll sell, right?
Yeah.
When whereas if a book publisher was doing the floppies at all, they'd probably still be thinking more, how many of the trade will I sell over 10 years than they're thinking about how many of the floppies will I sell a month.
Or even how many of the trade will I sell over a month, and how do the floppy sales add up to that interest? How do we get
Right,
to the place
right.
where what people want is, in book publishing terms, we might think of that as the omnibus. So,
Mhm.
oh, we're publishing a series. Book two didn't sell great, but that's okay because we're going to package books one through three into this omnibus and get another bump out of it.
Right.
You're right, a completely different perspective. And honestly, I can't really throw my agreement fully onto either side. I think
No.
both perspectives are valid and grounded in understandings of audience. And what we're seeing more right now, which I'm have been kind of pushing a lot, is an understanding that there is overlap between comics reading audiences and prose reading audiences.
Mhm.
Um, the sort of traditional wisdom has been these don't cross. Like prose readers aren't reading comics, comics readers aren't reading prose. And personally, as someone who writes both and quite a lot of both, my experience has been opposite. I
Yeah,
see,
honestly, I think, and this just popped into my head, we should start pushing for libraries not to have graphic novel sections.
oh, interesting. Say more.
Um, I mean, I've already seen it in bookstores, like the handful of bookstores that like just mix the comics in with like I loved it when I saw March in the history section at Barnes and Noble.
Hmm.
And I reached out to Andrew because I was so he's like, yeah, no, it's always been there, and they sell so many copies of it because of that. Because
Yeah,
it's a history book. It has every bit as much of appeal to somebody who wants a U.S. history book as it does to somebody who wants a Spider-Man comic.
absolutely.
So why would you put March next to Spider-Man rather than next to like Frederick Douglass?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
this
for
is one of the pleasures of my inbox is I get advance copies of books from publishers across comics and prose, and sometimes they'll pitch me. They write a little marketing pitch that's like, here's why we want you to read this advance copy. And sometimes they don't tell me what form the
oh,
thing is that they're sending me. They assume that I know just
right,
from their name or whatever. And so I'll open a file and I don't know if I'm going to be getting comics or not. And it's such a pleasure to be surprised in that way because the content is what hooks me. And then I
right,
open the file and it's like, okay, what form are
right.
we doing for this? Is
Yeah.
really
No,
fun.
I think at the very least it would be great to see a lot more cross-pollination. I mean, obviously you don't necessarily put Spider-Man in your sci-fi section. You know, you kind of need to have your own superhero section, and that's going to wind up being comics. There aren't a lot of superhero novels. There are some, so they could go in with the superhero comics, but
You know what? I'm
like,
gonna I'm gonna just pause for one moment because
sure.
my speakers just glitched out.
Oh,
So you stopped being
I'll
audible. So sorry about that.
technical difficulties are over. No, what I was saying is I think that there should just, at the very least, be more cross pollination. Like, I mean, Spider-Man
Yes.
doesn't necessarily belong in sci-fi, so you might have to create a superhero category, and that's going to be mostly comics. But there are a handful of superhero novels. They could go in there. And like, I mean, I am always like blown away by how many places your books get put to begin with, and that's before we start going into comics versus prose. Like, how much would your sales be helped if more of your stuff was cross-pollinated? And it's like, oh, I love
Yeah.
this book, and there's another book by this author that I love, you know. Um,
Well, and this is something that I've been discussing with other publishing professionals quite extensively over the course of the last year or so, because I just really, I got into the situation last year where I had an opportunity to go to a major conference. And my main comics publisher and my main prose publisher were both going to be there. I contacted them and I was like, hey, do you want to send me to this conference? I can do work for both of you while I'm there. And I kept hearing this, again, traditional wisdom that was like, well, that type of reader isn't really interested in what we publish. And I finally this year sat down with my team and started saying, look, every event I go to, every signing I do, every conference or con or whatever I show up at, I get readers coming to me who say, I never read comics before, but I started reading your books and I decided to check out your comics. Or I never read prose, but I read your comics and I had to pick up one of your novels. And then they start reading in this new space, and I'll see them 6 months later and they're like, I bought all your books. So there's clearly interest. And there's
Yeah.
clearly, I mean, this readership is so curious and open, and comics readers especially are completionists and they're excited to read everything you've written. So it's like,
Mhm.
why not give them the easy
Make it
opportunity
easier.
and say,
Right.
by the way, I'm here.
I mean, really, the ideal way to do it, except that nobody ever wants to carry extra inventory. Oh my God, that would be
The
horrible.
nightmare.
It would be to have like four copies in four different places,
Yeah.
you know, um, because, and yeah, that would require upkeep. It'd require, hey, we sold a copy. Where did we sell it from? But it's not hard to write software that would say you sold a copy, go check these three shelves to see which one you sold. And then you could start tracking data for, oh, this author sells better through their comics. They're like, we sell more of their prose next to their comics than we do in horror or in.
I think also to what you're saying, one of the great pleasures of a bookstore experience is a feeling of discovery. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if they're still in the same place, but there was a bookstore called Gray Wolf Books here in the Bay Area that was basically a labyrinth. It was like tons of interconnected,
Totally
and
the
given,
type of store that I like.
yeah, given I was going there as a kid, so it may have been less of a maze than it felt like at the time, but I remember tons
They
of
have a
interconnected rooms.
press, and well, there's a Gray Wolf press in Minneapolis, so that's
Oh
probably a
yeah, that's
different
different.
press.
Floor to ceiling shelves and used books mixed in with new books. And you would just have this feeling like you might find anything anywhere. And that was what made me stay. And it was what made me, get like armloads of books, because I would find something and have that feeling of like, of discovery and chance, which I think is lost in some of the more corporate models of bookstore.
It does look like Gray Wolf Books is closed.
Very sad.
It was in San Leandro.
Yes. Yeah. San Leandro.
Well, and like I figured this out because the blurb right under Unique Bookstore in Bay Area for a Facebook post is, this is not a free advertisement for Gray Wolf Books. The shop has been closed for several years.
Oh, that's too bad.
but
Well, they
but
were
if you,
amazing.
I mean, that says a lot if you have people like writing their remembrances of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I get it. Like, it's hard to make retail work. It's hard to make book retail work even more so because like our capitalism is built on our current our current version of capitalism. I hate calling it capitalism. There needs to be a better word because like what we do in the United States has so little to do with what Adam Smith laid out that like it's not capitalism anymore. It's something else.
Hmm.
Um, but in the current environment, it's really, really um difficult to play any sort of long game.
Yeah. Yes.
Y-
We have no margin.
Right.
And so we're operating on a tightrope at all times.
Mhm. And like that, I mean, that just has so many like the most realistic um neo-futuristic tales that I read lately, I mean, other than you and having the carceral system create the richest people, um, are the ones that like, I mean, I've read a few things lately that like forced consumerism. Like if you're not buying this much, then you're a blight on society.
Uh-huh.
Because like when you have a system that requires constant growth, like it's not good if people decide, no, I like where I'm at. I'm going
Right.
to buy some new books from time to time, but like I bought good clothes and they haven't worn out. I don't need new fashion and my feet stopped growing and I bought good enough shoes that like, I mean, how many things can you even get fixed anymore?
It's very difficult. I had a pair of shoes, a pair of boots that were my everywhere boots for years and years and years. And I wore down the soles all the way and got them resoled. And then I wore down those soles again. And I needed to get them resoled. And I had like 2 weeks to do it before I needed to travel. And I couldn't find a cobbler who could take on the job within that period of time because there's so few of them left that all of
Yeah.
them have like a 3 to 4 week wait list for
Yeah.
resoling a pair of fucking shoes.
I mean, with like cars, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like some of the bells and whistles, but like your car shouldn't die based on an electronic system, and it shouldn't
Hmm.
be impossible to learn how to fix your car without learning computers.
Yeah. I mean, even just the small repairs. My rearview mirror got broken,
Right.
and I went to try and get it fixed, and they said we can't actually fix this. We have to order a whole new
Yeah.
rearview mirror. It's going to cost like $800 because it's a computer.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like you can't just put a new piece of glass in there. No.
Right. That's, I mean, that's bad design unless you want it to be bad design. I mean, this is one of the things that drives me up the wall. I'm sitting there going, there's so many billionaires that say they want to make a difference. And like, if they really did, they could upend so many industries so fast just making reliable. I mean, how easy would it be to upend the publishing industry if you were willing to drop $1 billion? How easy would it be to upend the car industry if you were willing to drop $1 billion? The amount of money that they're spending to try to shift politics, even if they're the handful of, there's no such thing as a good billionaire, but you know what I mean. Even if they're the ones that like say that they're trying to do good things, like they could do it so much better by actually going, oh, the things that made me a billionaire are part of the problem.
Yeah. And I will say, to your point, unfortunately, there are billionaires who are aiming to upend the publishing industry, but they aren't altruistic. They
No,
aren't thinking about the good of publishing and the good of art.
I,
And so when
I,
they upend the publishing industry, which is a really serious issue we're dealing with right now in publishing, they do it by fucking everyone over.
yeah, I was about to say, they're not trying to upend the publishing industry as much as they're trying to, oh, wait, there's money to be made here. I want to get it.
Yes, they're trying to
Th-
juice it.
that's different from, you know, like if a billionaire decided that they really wanted to support the arts, it could be as simple as I'm taking on most of the risk of putting out the book. The artists get paid up front. They get less residual, but not no residual until they've like I'm just going to use random numbers, but say you're paid $50,000 up front and there's a $5 profit after production store cut, distributor cut, right? There's $5 to split between you and the publisher. So until you get to that $50,000 mark, you get $2 and they get three. And once you've crossed that $50,000 line, or 50,000 copies, we'll make it that $1 difference, right? So for that $50,000 advance or whatever you want to call it, but it should be a non-refundable advance. It's like you get $2 per copy, they get $3 per copy. Once they've recouped that $50,000, you get $3 per copy, they get $2 per copy. Done. And that would completely change the industry because the risk would be the people that had the money. And again, those are random numbers, but they're not completely random numbers.
Well, what you're describing is the advance and royalty model of a lot of publishing, but
Except
again,
that a
it's very
lot of them
different.
don't want to give you the royalty until the advance is paid off.
That was going to be the end of my sentence, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which
No, I
ignores
mean,
the fact that you still need to live.
I think also what you're describing is functionally um like a Medici model, right? What we need is people who have money to decide that art is worth supporting for the sake of art. And even if they won't decide that, how about for the sake of your reputation? I mean, we used to
Right.
have like Rockefellers trying
Mm-hmm.
to build big public parks because they were like,
Right.
everyone hates us. You'll hate us less if we have a big public park.
Right.
We can't even get there now.
Well, and like the biggest place that we're different from what Adam Smith laid out is that the reason capital was supposed to get a return on an investment was that they were coming in to take the risk. We've set up a system where the people who provide the capital have almost no risk. It's the people that work or the people who make art that have risk. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just artists. Like the people who work for a living have all the risk because if for whatever reason Amico goes out of business, the guys who own Amico are going to be okay. All the people who pumped gas for a living are not going to have jobs anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, anytime there's a tariff, it's like, okay, well, our percentage of profit needs to be the same.
Yeah.
So the price isn't just going up by whatever the tariff is. It's going up enough that our percentage of profit, if you were selling something for $100 and they were taking 35% profit, and now you're selling it for 110, now there's a $10 tariff, it's going to get raised like 13.50 because they still have to keep their same profit margin. That
Hmm.
they can't decide, oh, I'm going to make X dollars of profit. It's I'm going to make this percentage of profit. The little guy doesn't get a percentage. The little guy gets as little as they can give him because they're convinced that that's how capitalism works. Um,
Well, it's the way that the value is placed on margin. It's
right,
we who are doing the work lose margin as much as possible so that the margin can stay with the people who are supposedly, as you said, taking on that risk. And they're
right.
like, oh, I'll give myself
Uh,
big margin so that the risk isn't as much risk, so that if this doesn't work out, I don't take the big hit. But the result of that is functionally margin hoarding. And that's
right.
why these billionaires don't actually have, they're not at risk of really anything
No.
because they have so much margin that no matter what happens, they'll be fine.
And that's before we even get into various structural things that make it so that, like, if money is lost, it comes from the little guy first, not, I mean, like part of the big problem with the the whole diamond fiasco with comics is that like the banks were the last money in, and why they lent them so much money that late is really kind of insane, except that they're also the first money out.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're allowed to screw the small publisher easier than they're allowed to screw the bank that could write it off gets their money before the publisher that's going to be put out of business
Yeah.
because of way laws are written. And that's again, like when you hear the speeches, oh, you got to be laissez-faire with the government. And I'm like, but the government's not keeping their hands off. The government's making it so the banks get paid first.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're putting their hand on the scale really hard.
This was something that I talked about, oh gosh, right before the last election. I was talking to an artist who I was working with, not on any of my comics, on a personal project. And he was voicing some like weird pro-Trump stuff that wasn't
Right.
like the kind of frothing at the mouth, like vicious bigotry that you normally hear from people who are saying that they don't think he's a bad guy. And so I was trying to talk to this artist and be like, explain to me what you mean. Explain like why you're saying these things that you're saying. And he said, well, the other politicians who I see just don't seem to stand for anything. And I said, I totally agree with you. Like Gavin Newsom is a little worm who doesn't have any beliefs or views other than Gavin Newsom be president, please. Like that's all he's got.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said was, I don't disagree with you about most politicians, but when you look at this administration, you have to see that their values are enrich our cohort. That's the whole plan. There's nothing else there. It is enrich our cohort. If you are connected to the current administration, the goal is to put as much money into your pockets as possible before everyone gets kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a money grab. And it's like people were doing all this game theory and psychoanalysis and like armchair strategy. And it's like, no, it's a money grab.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not, it's sometimes it's not
But
more
what
complex than that.
but what Trump and specifically Trump does that I don't think the people who have more of our best interest at heart are particularly good at, though AOC is getting better at it, is just shoot from the hip, which comes off as authentic. Democrats sound really, really focus grouped. And that's why even when there's evidence that, Gavin Newsom, yes, I don't think he believes in anything but me be president. But Chris Murphy, until recently, often came off very focus grouped, even though I think he stands for a lot more than that. Um, in fact, I still don't know if he'll throw his hat into the ring. I kind of hope he does. I kind of hope that he doesn't because I think he'd be a great Secretary of State. Um, but until recently, every time I heard him speak, it just sounded so measured that I'm like, I I've seen enough of your writings, I've seen enough of your longer talks that I know that you have real beliefs. But I feel like when you talk in an interview, you're just trying not to piss anybody off. And that's like the definition of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
And
I
that
think
makes it
there's an
really hard to figure
interesting,
out who actually cares about anything.
yeah, I think there's a really interesting point of contrast here because, like, I medium care about the public facing authenticity of the politicians who represent me. I know that they're showing me a face. I know they're showing me a brand. I know they're performing a certain amount of polish. And I'm like, good, yeah, you're professional. You're taking your job seriously. But people, I think, especially in the US, are so sick of being manipulated. And there comes this breaking point where I think people go, I want someone artless who I might not respect, but who I don't think is trying to manipulate me. And like Gavin Newsom, I'm sorry, I live in California and we have such
Right.
a
Love
unique
hate relationship with
love
Newsom.
love is a part of it.
Mostly hate.
That man hates unhoused people and trans people so much, and I just want and anyway.
Yeah.
Um, when he speaks publicly, it feels like he's trying to manipulate me. I can feel that he's like me, like me, like me. I'm going to push the button to make you like me. And that feels both feels bad to experience and creates this understanding of like not only do you not stand for anything, but you'll do anything
Right.
to try and get where you want to go. So why
Right.
would I trust you with public office?
Right. Well, and you and I are both like high info voters. Imagine that you're not. Imagine that you work 80 hours a week and you really wish you could work 50 hours a week. And you just want whoever in government will make your life a little bit easier. And this guy is yelling up and down about how they're the ones that made your life hard and I'm going to take care of you because I'm going to bring the best ever. And this guy who your friends who are smart but don't live your life because they're smart and they're college professors or whatever are going, no, you should really be listening to this guy. But you're sitting there going, do you understand where I'm coming from?
I think this connects to your earlier point about, consumerism,
Yeah.
because contentment is the enemy of fascism. It's the
Yeah.
enemy of authoritarianism. It's the enemy of consumerism. People being genuinely happy and content in their lives and having the things that they need would undermine this current political cohort's efforts at accumulating and hoarding power and money. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do it if people actually had the things that they need.
Yeah. I mean, uh, there's been like rising right wing stuff in a lot of Europe, funded primarily by American companies. Um, but I think one of the reasons that it doesn't stick as well is like they have healthcare, they have education. Their countries view homelessness as a societal problem, not a personal problem. It's amazing how just those three things could.
Yeah, I think there's also a real, one of my very dearest friends lives in Germany and I get to visit her with some frequency. And there are legal boundaries in place to try to prevent these things from sticking. In Germany, there's shit you can't say legally.
Yeah,
They're like freedom of speech, actually not that important to us. What is important is no Nazis. We don't want that. And therefore, you can't do that shit here. And it's like that runs so counter to the American kind of idea of what how a country should be run. And frankly, experiencing both of these realities, right? Experiencing what it's like there, experiencing what it's like here, can make us seem childish at times.
yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, if you don't want Nazis in your bar, you don't let Nazis hang out in your bar.
Right, right. Or like I love when we talk about how great our Constitution is. It's the oldest Constitution, blah blah blah. And you know what? Like I want to make really clear, there are a lot of great things about our Constitution, but like, what thing that was first? What thing in like all of the rest of the universe and time and whatnot that was first was also best?
Carefully, you're going to get a lot of mail from older siblings.
I am the oldest, but I meant in terms of like invention, in terms of
Sure, sure.
and like I'll take a lot of mail. I've never gotten a lot of mail. That'd be kind of cool.
I don't know. I'm a youngest
22
sibling, and
panels podcast at gmail.com.
I can tell you, you don't want oldest siblings mad at you because they remember stuff forever.
I don't. My memory's terrible. My younger brothers remember the ways that I tormented them way more than I remember why.
That's one of those the axe forgets but the tree remembers things.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, and the Model T wasn't the first, but like, was the Model T the height of car making?
Probably not, but thinking about how fucking sick I am of my car being like I'm having a computer problem.
No. I get that. I get that. But But like, have there been no improvements in printing since Gutenberg?
No, I take your point. I take your point. Of course. And I mean,
But
we do
yet
have an
we
amendment
like,
structure, but we fetishize the original in
well,
the
but
US.
beyond that, like anytime you say, well, they do it this way over there, they wrote it in their constitution. It's like, well, our constitution's better. It's like our founders knew that it should be amended. They said so right there. And then they amended it 10 times before it was even ratified. They didn't have to make those amendments. They could have made them part of the Constitution. I don't know. We're off on, and this is why I love talking to you. We go off on fun and intelligent tangents. Pitch your book before I get into to closing ish questions because I want to get you out in time to go eat.
Thank you.
We've
My
talked the
book that's
comic.
coming out in May is called Make Me Better, and it is an exploration of high control community dynamics. It's about a cult on an island in the middle of a secluded lake, and the way that cult defines who its members are to each other, and what happens to a community when someone steps outside of their assigned role.
All righty. Two of my favorite writers are doing stuff about cults right now.
Ooh, who else?
Mark Russell's new comic is
I
that's
love
kick
Mark Russell.
yeah, the comic that he's got kickstarting I think soon. It hasn't launched yet, but Ahoy's doing their first Kickstarter and it's Mark Russell and Russ Braun doing a book called The Forgotten Divine where
Mm.
like this PTSD war vet starts seeing things and then discovers that other people are seeing things. So they build a cult and that's what I know so far. But like I've read the first 7 pages and it's enough to have me even more hooked than just Mark Russell would have had me hooked.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in. That sounds great.
Yeah. Kickstarter soon. I'll send you I'll send you an update when it goes live. I'll try
Please.
to remember anyway. Um, but yeah, I wonder what's in the zeitgeist that has you guys all thinking about cults.
Well, it's really funny. I've been working on, well, I guess I should start using past tense. I worked on Make Me Better for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I started writing it in like late 2019, early 2020, and it was a very different time, but
So
not
I
that
was about to
different
say
of
the
a
world
time.
hasn't changed at all during those six or
Yeah,
seven
not
years.
one bit.
I mean, I'm constantly going, 2019 was like yesterday.
You know, in some ways, yeah. In some ways, it feels like time folded between like 2020 and 2024. And when I look back
I
at the
mean, that is
community work,
true.
when I look
Yeah.
back at the community work that me and some of my colleagues were doing in like 2018, 2019, what we were trying to organize to prevent, it feels like there's just this lacuna between then and now that progress vanished into, which isn't so. It feels that way, but that's not true. Of course, we have a huge amount of progress, if only in community building and awareness.
Right.
Um, and of course, in many other
Oh, no,
ways.
no, no. That's paid protesters. Didn't you hear?
Oh, are we getting paid? Is the check in
No,
the mail?
I mean, apparently I don't know where to file for my paycheck, but I've
Yeah.
been told that all of that is organized paid protesting.
I'll
I
check
think
my
it's
bank
be
account balance once we finish here.
I think it's because, as it turns out, there aren't many fascist things that happen without outside agitation, whereas like kindness is something that people do just to do. I mean, is that possible?
I think there is a really valid distinction to be drawn between the way fascism is very top down, trying to impose a structure, and you know, people, especially influencers in like, conservative media spaces, love to say, well, this is what God intended, it's the natural order of things. And it's like, I don't know, you're having to work awfully fucking hard to impose the
Right.
natural order of things on people whose natural order seems to be community support and care.
Well, but I go even further than that, like, because I've done enough of the, Jane Meyer had a great book called Dark Money, and there are all sorts of, like, so many of the things they accuse us of being on the left, paying to put together the protest, whatnot, like, there's evidence that they've done it. Like, I think for some of them, they like literally don't, they believe what they're saying because that's the only way that they can get it to happen.
I mean, sure, possibly. I gotta say, like, this is maybe not my most elevated opinion. There's a lot of conversation about what people on the far right do or don't believe, and I kind of don't give a shit about their
No,
interior.
I don't actually care a lot about what they do or don't believe, but in terms of the dynamic, I think one of the reasons that A, it's hard to go away, and B, they think they need so much money is that, like, they because they're like, none of them have been to a church potluck. They don't know that, like, there's lots of people who are really good at putting a lot of food together fast for their community. That wasn't hard for the people of Minnesota. That comes natural to them.
Well, this is, just I keep on returning to this well of the afterword to know your station that
Right.
Liana Kangas and I put together that is about the
Which has
fact
been
that
read on my air a few times.
massive wealth hoarding exists for the sole purpose of separating the hoarder from the experience of humanity.
Hmm.
That's the function. They don't want people to organize to bring them food after something difficult happens because they don't want that connection to humanity and community. They want to eliminate it because it feels like a vulnerability.
I'm gonna do another plug. Um, and I don't know if the Kickstarter finally has the after program. So I don't know if you can still order them because they're just done. I just got my did you see the project that Andrew Iden did last year?
Which project?
Andrew Iden did a project called Islands in the Sky. Um, where it's a officially it's by a group he created called the Appalachian Comics Project, and it's an anthology of actual stories of Hurricane Helene and surviving it and like rebuilding and whatnot. Um, but some of them are by creators that live in the area. But if there weren't like, there are also stories that are just from people, but he'd then pair them with creators. So like Brian Michael Bendis helped write one, and like art from I think the Valentine Delandro, and I can't even remember all the names. Like, it's a who's who of top-notch comics talent helping just normal Appalachian people tell the stories of how they dealt with this crazy thing. But
That is
like,
so cool.
aside from the fact that it's just
What a great
beautiful
project.
and it's a cool project, like, he just sent out the PDFs to backers, and I read it this week, and it's like, um it's just like so humanizing. It's so like because again, like, I mean, the things that we don't know about, or that the general public doesn't know about Helene, is just insane. Like,
Massive, yeah.
because the disinformation started going out really fast, et cetera, all sorts of things were going wrong. But there was a huge swath in North Carolina where, like, all communications were out.
Yeah.
Like, cell towers were, like, all communications. And there were no roads that weren't, like, so there was this swath of North Carolina that for like 2 or 3 days was completely cut off from the rest of society and had to figure out on their own, find each other and get up on roofs, or, oh, the neighbor's house down the way is okay. Let's all go there. The restaurants that would like make food and give it away for, um, like, and I just loved it because it's this anthology of, here you have a community that like your average coastal or city person would like easily malign or whatever, we're talking redneck Appalachia, whatever, but they went to bat for each other immediately, and I mean, clearly it's not all redneck, whatever, because like one of the stories is from a climate scientist. And one of the stories is from Andrew Iden, and I don't think anybody's going to like talk about John Lewis's right hand man being some.
I would push you one step further on that to try not to separate the idea of a redneck from a good and valuable person. I mean,
I
the
don't. That's
the
my point. That's what I love about this anthology is I try really hard not to, but particularly, and I'm certain that you deal with this sometimes too, particularly when you actually are around a lot of people who are very aware and up to date on news and infuriated at what's going on in this nation. Too many of them will immediately write off anybody who voted for Trump, anybody who's a Christian, anybody who's whatever. And it's like, no, I don't think that's how it works. I think they're human too, and they're doing the best they can. And yeah, some of them are deplorable people. Hillary probably wasn't completely wrong, but she probably had her number a little high, you know? um, and even so, like, how do we define deplorable? Like the thing that I hate the most about the last 10 years is like, yes, I can't wait for hearts and minds to be won over and realize that people are people, are people, rather than looking at color or gender or sexual preference or whatever. Um, but before Trump, people were at least embarrassed to be racist.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we have really lost something by losing that sense of embarrassment for people who reveal themselves to be horrible or to hold horrible views and espouse
Yeah.
horrible views.
10 years ago, if you let horrible thoughts come out, people would shame you, and you would either start thinking about them or at the very least keep them inside so that you weren't spreading them to other people. Now it's like, I'm not a racist. I haven't hung anybody this month.
Yeah, I think social censure is really valuable and underrated
You
to create a
know.
functioning society.
Well, I mean, I think whether it's full on censure or not, like it's a forced discussion. Now we just don't even have the discussions. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's like, well, except that that's not true, because you tell me to shut the hell up if I talk about like amending the Second Amendment.
Right.
I'm not entitled to my opinions on the Supreme Court being full of shit when they pass down a gun decision. We just I want to live in a more boring world, Sarah.
Absolutely. Those,
Can
like I
we
said,
have
contentment.
Yeah.
Boring and content are next door neighbors.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, that contentment is really the enemy of power.
So, like, my only thing that because I feel like our parents were content, and if anything, they were too content. So when like this started creeping up, they didn't see it, particularly because they were kept content. So it was just that younger generation. Well, what's wrong with you? I'm happy.
I don't know that I totally agree, but I see where you're coming from.
You know, I mean, I think it depends on like what group. I mean, I'll be the first to say I grew up a pretty affluent white male life, you know. Um, and I'm still seeing members of my family suddenly wake up, oh, this is problematic. It's like, it was problematic 20 years ago, too.
Well, I think that's, to your point you were making earlier, is everyone is on their own path of figuring out how they want to exist in the world and what they want the world to look like. And one of the most frustrating and annoying and important parts of being a community is being able to hold space for that. And it is not always easy to exercise that principle of universal compassion when someone is talking
Yeah.
out of the side of their mouth, but we gotta
Well,
hang
and
in there
that's,
with some people.
I mean, like to me, the thing that free speech should be is encourage conversation. Free speech shouldn't be like there's no consequences for my speech. It's like you can absolutely tell me your ideas, but you need to also hear mine.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I think people forget when they talk about everyone's entitled to their opinion is that, sure, everyone's entitled to their opinion is an idea that has to live alongside talk shit, get hit.
Right.
Like, I have
Right.
lived in many communities where it's like, yeah, you can have your opinion, and if you come and voice that opinion around the people it pertains to, you're gonna be short a few teeth when you leave. And that's how the world fucking works.
Yes. I mean,
Don't make me send you to the
I don't,
dentist by talking that shit.
I don't really condone violence, but I will argue that there are times where I think that non-fatal violence is a form of speech.
I feel the same way about condoning or not condoning violence as we were talking about the beliefs of people on the far right. It's like whether I condone violence or not, it's a reality of human life. And when
Yeah,
people pretend that, again, coming and talking your shit should be free, it's like, yeah, say what you want, and some people are going to talk back with their hands.
right. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to say really quickly before we get into the final questions that are like only semi-related that this is actually why I love your books, comics or books, is that I feel like and obviously why I love talking to you is that I have to think about things. I have to think about new things. And even when I agree with lots of things, um, I never go into a conversation or read a book of yours without looking at something differently, without going, oh, that's an interesting take. I need to stew on this.
I
Does that
love
make
making you
sense?
stew.
Yeah. Does that make sense? I love stewing. Like, because I don't mean that in like a bad, you make me anxious, and I mean that in a like every conversation we have, every work of yours I read, I feel a little wiser at the end of it just for having had it. So I thank you for that. And
Thank you.
now we'll get into closing questions. I have a new one since the last time you were on.
Okay.
There's the one closing question that you've been asked many times, so you might remember it. But the new one is like, um, I've been doing this podcast for this is the fifth year. We're in season 5, and I feel like I live in the twilight zone now. Um, I've made more friends in my 40s than I made in my teens. I feel like I have surreal experiences on a regular basis, like the people that I'll text baseball about, that like the 30-year-old me, like if you even told me I was going to get to talk to them for 5 minutes in my life, I would have gone, yeah, whatever. I mean, I get to say my friend Sarah Gailey when I see one of your books. Like, it's just weird in all of the most wonderful ways. And I have found that this is a really common thing in the comics community. All of us have these surreal pinch ourselves moments or life changes or whatever. So I started collecting the stories. Tell me about a surreal moment or thing that when you think about and you go, "Oh wow, this is something that's part of my life now." You almost have to like pinch yourself, or you sit there going, "Little Sarah would have said, yeah, whatever."
This one's so easy. I just was at WonderCon and got to be on a panel about Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I wrote a 16-issue run of Buffy the
You
Vampire
did
Slayer comics.
a very good
And
one. I'm not even a Buffy
my
fan. I'm just a Gailey fan, and it was
my
very good.
co-panelists included uh one of the people who created Hellmouth Con, which is the big Buffy fandom con, and the actress who played Drusilla on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Juliet Landau. And there were other people on that panel, but that is the surreal thing was sitting between those two people and not feeling holy shit feelings greater or smaller than the feelings I feel about, my artistic collaborators on my comics, the
Right,
editors who I get to work with, the people who I get to interact with every day in this job.
right.
That was a really surreal feeling. Sitting there and realizing these are two people who objectively I am impressed by, I respect a great deal, and I'm not sweating bullets about it because I also
I'm
have an
not out
email
of
in my
place at this
inbox from
table.
so and so who I can't name right now
Right.
who like I feel the same way about.
Hmm.
The equalization of artists over the course of my career has been incredibly surreal. Just this
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
of like, oh, everyone is as important as everyone else.
yeah. I mean, I still have to, because while you were at WonderCon, I was at C2E2, and I moderated my first four panels this year, and like
Congratulations.
the the names on those panels are insane. You know, I had Jeffrey Brown and Lucy Knisley on a panel. I had Terry Moore and Spike Trotman and Greg Petrie on a panel. you know, um, Eisner winners and bestsellers and whatnot. And like they all said yes when I wrote to them, and they all thanked me for having them there and whatnot. And it's like, wait a minute, like I came to this con to work. I'm a peer of these people, not just the fan running around. And it was a weird and cool feeling.
I think
Um,
that's the cool thing about getting to interact with creators is just that growing realization that all of us are doing a job. Many of us are doing a job that we love, and we're coworkers. Like,
right,
and this is my coworker who has been to the Oscars and walked so many red carpets that they've lost count. And this is my coworker who lives in a studio apartment in Silver Lake and is grinding out
right,
drafts day after day. And it's
right,
like, yeah, these are my coworkers, and all of them are amazing, and
right.
all of them are human beings. And it's like integrating the idea of both of those things at the same time is such a landmark.
It is. And it's. I mean, going back a little bit, it's why. I mean, I've always disliked anything that smacks of dehumanizing the other at all, but it has become such a big deal to me when people on the left are even brushing the border of dehumanizing anybody on the right at this point, because it's like, no, wait a minute. You can't sit there going, that's their problem, and then turn around and do it. And beyond that, like, I know so many people across so many different spectrums right now because of what I do with this podcast that no, they're human beings with their own lives and their own needs and their own time and their own whatever. You don't get to decide what's important to them. You don't get to decide whether or not they're smart or whether or not they pay enough attention. They're humans. You get to treat them like humans and do your best. Um, yeah, but it is a really cool industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need to go, and the next one's in April, like next April. to Comics Crossroads Columbus. You belong there either as a table or as a fan. Either way, doesn't matter. Just because what you were describing, I've seen like boom, boom, boom tables. That's the one place that you'll see it. You'll see like the table of the handmade zines, Shelley and Philip Bond, the Society of Political Cartoonists, Dennis Kitchen, more handmade zines. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's just everybody's only tied by comics. They love comics. It's not even like what you won't see is cosplay, or at least cosplay by anybody over the age of like 10.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, but it's also a much smaller con. I mean, how often do you see cosplay at like SPX?
Well, you know what? I most years I'm not able to do it this year, but most years I do the Napa Valley Comic Con, which is held
Okay.
at the Napa Valley Library.
Hmm.
It's in their parking lot, and it's awesome because this community of really excited readers comes out, and you get cosplay of all ages. It's like a fairly,
Okay.
it's small compared to like an SDCC or WonderCon or whatever, but they're passionate. And one of my favorite things I've ever seen at any con of any kind was happened there. There was this little kid, like 3 years old, dressed as Spider-Man, and someone showed up in this incredible Godzilla cosplay. Huge, like 7 feet tall. And the Godzilla is coming towards these front steps of the library, and Spider-Man is coming down the steps and
Oh,
sees
nice.
Godzilla. And the person, like the handler who was with the Godzilla cosplayer, goes, "Help, Spider-Man, Godzilla's here." And this little tiny kid starts doing Spider-Man, like leaping around this Godzilla and flinging webs at him
Right.
and trying to take him down. And this Godzilla cosplayer goes with it immediately and, lets Spider-Man win. And this kid was like, at an age where
That,
imagination, play, and
mhm.
reality not totally distinguishable. And you could see the moment when this kid was like, I think I just saved the library from Godzilla.
Right.
It was
And
just, I mean, that's what these communities
I,
are for.
I did not mean to like have it come off like I don't like cosplay, or that it was a bonus that there wasn't cosplay. Mostly it's that like there's not as much superheroes. They've got
Hmm.
Raina Telgemeier, but they don't have Scott Snyder. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
So like the cosplay tends to be different at CXC and more kid oriented. Though I have talked to enough of the organizers that I know that they'd be willing to have superhero people. So like who knows? That could change. You should go out and encourage the cosplay contingent.
Great. That's what I'm here for.
Um Actually there's often cosplay at the karaoke after party.
Oh, nice.
I mean, not like a ton, but there is sometimes. So like, I mean, there's all sorts of, but it is comics focused because it's Jeff Smith and Tom Spurgeon's con, um, and the Billy Ireland Museum at Ohio State is like the largest collection of original comic book art in the United States. So that's the basis of it.
Great.
All right. The question that you've had to answer every time now, and then you can go eat. Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't really have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced, and you'd really like them to, so that you have more people to talk about it with.
There is a I guess graphic novel that I have read many times that I reread recently and that I'm actually pitching an essay on about how not enough people have read it and should. It's called The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil. And
I don't know if I know this one.
it's gorgeous. It's this beautiful book about structure and entropy and how societies are impacted by unfathomable disaster that was neither like the kind of disaster that's neither predictable nor preventable. And it's not didactic. It's not a morality tale, but it always makes me think more deeply about how I'm approaching the frightful parts of the world around me.
And he loves the Bengals. All right. I am in. I will have read this by the next time we talk.
Fantastic. I hope you love it.
Because you're also on the short list of people that you make a recommendation. It's not a, oh, I should get around to that sooner. It's a, I must get now.
I'm honored.
I must, well, you've never steered me wrong. There's a short list of people that like, I mean, Alex DeCampi makes a recommendation and it's like, okay, ordering.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty well-read guy, so when I run into people that I both think are better read than I am and have really good taste, I want to know what they want to read. Um, you're going on tour again, so people should find you at various places, though the closest you're coming to me is Des Moines, and it's a weekend that I don't think I can get out there, which
Ugh,
makes me sad because I
I'm so
might
sorry.
have. I'm thinking about it. Like it's still during the school year, and I think you're there on a Saturday. And essentially, what I'd have to do is go out to my mom's in Galena on. And as I say this, and my mom's going to listen to it, she might actually like start pressuring me. So I'm going to say it anyway. It'll be the test to see if mom's listening to the end of the episode. Hi, mom. Hi, Adam. Hi, Britt. Hi, John. Um, because I think Des Moines, it's your last stop, and I think
Yes, it's my
yeah,
last stop.
I want to say May 16th. Does that sound
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Saturday. So I'd have to go from home to Galena, which is like 3 hours Friday night. I'd have to make like the 10-hour round trip to Des Moines from Galena. Might only be 8-hour round trip, but I'm pretty certain Des Moines is almost 4 hours from Galena.
That sounds
On
pretty miserable.
Well, no, I mean, I've done crazier because I wanted to, so it's not impossible. But I have to do that because as like kind of my mom just retired and her birthday's May 14th and Mother's Day's in there too, and we haven't seen her in a while, so she's got like birthday presents for both my wife and and I think we've got our Christmas presents. I don't remember. So we were trying to get so right before you announced your dates, we'd arranged to meet halfway between Galena and us to go to a baseball game in Appleton, Wisconsin on Sunday the 17th. So I would have to do all of that. And so if I miss you, that's why. But
No
by
pressure.
putting it out in the ether, my mom's probably going to pressure me. But seriously, one of these times, like Chicago and Milwaukee are both an hour away, Sarah. And I could now book you at a bookstore in Algonquin. I will bring the crowd to you. We've got space, a comfy couch.
Well, here's hoping that I make my way up there soon.
Yeah, I mean, what's with all of these bookstores that book tours that skip Chicago? It doesn't make sense to me.
I cannot speak to that, unfortunately.
Uh, You can't speak to it, or or it's the publisher that plans stuff.
It's the publisher that plans it, and they've
Okay.
got all kinds of internal math that they do,
Okay.
and
I just
far be
wanted
it
to
from
make
me to
certain
ask
that it
them.
wasn't, you
Yeah.
can't speak to that because you didn't want to piss off Chicago and really you'd given them the we don't do Chicago.
No, 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 no. I love Chicago. Every time I've come there, I've had a great time. The people are
Okay.
nice, the popcorn's delicious. Like,
Well,
yeah,
maybe between the comics and the books, they'll send you to ALA this year. It's back in
fingers
Chicago.
crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. for Sarah Gailey, the comic is Neighborhood Watch. The book that's just around the corner is Make Me Better. Um, it's always a pleasure. And for Sarah Gailey, we will see you after the next page.